My names are Patrick Kabunse Chilaisha, and I am a photographer and a photo manipulator. Yeah. How I got into photography? I would say there've been subtle hints in the family where dad owned a camera, film camera, um, and I think I preferred being the one taking the goofy photos of everyone, as people did random things like eating, but it never clicked until a later stage in my life, and that was when I was looking for a wallpaper, of all things. A phone wallpaper, I was looking for something that felt more closer to me, and I found myself trying to take the perfect wallpaper. But it wasn't really sitting right, so then I got introduced into Photoshop, and I think I leaned more towards Photoshop, and I had less of the photography know-how. Met a friend. I think she introduced me into photography a little bit more because she was more into photography and I was more into photo editing. So I guess that kind of sparked that little childhood taking photos of people, and that became the mission, the vision, and here I am. I think that was 2019. 2019, yeah, 2019. I saw an ad for the Lechwe Young Artist Exhibition. It was a competition. I didn't know much about it, and I was curious to see whether photography had reached that level in Zambia, as to people exhibiting photography, because I didn't see a lot of it, well, didn't see a lot of it at all. So I went in thinking that there would be multiple photographers exhibiting, only to find that I was the only one exhibiting, and I was excited because it felt like I was starting something that not a lot of people thought was a part of the art industry. Because a lot of people consider art being the paintings, the sculptures, and the rest. So having photography, which was meager in this art community, and having my work being the first there was an achievement for me and others that saw it as well. What I submitted was actually a manipulation of a thing. There wasn't there wasn't an actual photograph, but a manipulation, and it got people asking the questions of how I did it, how I got down to it, how the photo was. So for me, that was a push. Like, okay, so people are seeing this work. Let's see what else can happen from it. Then in my journey, I started leaning towards a lot of research because I was now curious about identity of all things. Because I started hearing people talking about not knowing where they're from, how they got here. So I leaned towards the identity of my work as well, like the story behind it and how I get to how I produce my work. So I got to researching a lot and started reading and enjoyed a lot of the history of Zambia. And it triggered something, which was, how do I put that story for people to see the way I see it and the way I'm hearing it with photography. I didn't know how, but I knew somewhere along the lines something would pop up to do so. Got a chance to also continue growing my work, which was during the PhotoCovidZambia exhibition, which was triggered because of COVID and us getting to express ourselves and how we felt in the times of COVID. I did a lot of self-reflecting on my work and how I would want people to see how I view my work. And I think that's when my journey as a photographer really got to me, because I realized not a lot of people were seeing what I was doing, and I wanted a way to get those people to understand how I see them, how I see the world, and how I view everything, how I recreate everything. So I think that's when my journey really, really picked off as a photographer. After that, there was the Chaminuka exhibitions, which was the emerging artist exhibitions. There was a workshop happening in Chaminuka. They were getting young artists, and I was invited there. I didn't know much about it, but I was recommended to go, and I was like, okay, fine, let's go. Let's go find out what it's about. And not knowing that at the end of it, there was an exhibition, and at the exhibition as well, I did another crazy manipulation. And I guess people got to understand just what photography meant to me, that it wasn't really just that, but that I was creating something new that they didn't know about. Because a lot of people were expecting, oh, they've heard of Patrick as a photographer, but then they've never seen my work. So they were expecting actual photos, actual subjects, but then they got something different. And I enjoyed having to show people another part of me, which they didn't know and they didn't understand. But I just explained to them that this is how I see the world. This is how I accept the world. And they got to understand just how that part of me worked. After that, there was the Umumpashi Wanamfumu exhibition. This one explored a lot of how I work as a photographer. But then it not only stuck to that, it also worked on all my skills that I have gathered along the years were put into it. Research, photography, graphic design, software engineering, everything was poured into it. And I guess people got to understand there was a lot more to me than they actually thought. There was more to the photography as well. There was more to how I would want to show my photography as well. And I liked the response I got from it. Yeah. Stories of Kalingalinga, I focused on the stories of Kalingalinga. Why I say so is because when you're walking there, you hear different stories from different people, but then one thing sort of remains the same, which is, oh, there used to be someone living here, or they left this, or there's this story, or we came from the village, decided to settle in Kalingalinga. We've grown up with our neighbors. They decided to leave because they couldn't handle how many times things were changing. But then, to me, what impacted me was the fact that they still remembered their neighbors, what their neighbors did, what their neighbors helped them out, and all of that. So I decided to focus on those stories and to focus on how people come to Kalingalinga, impact the lives that are there, and even though they leave, there's still a part of them that remains in Kalingalinga. And I try to show how much that movement has been seen but ignored. So my body of work relied on the reflections that people have left behind. Initially, I came into the Stories of Kalingalinga trying to see if I could do normal. I realized that normal is relative. My normal might not be someone else's normal. So it inspired me to continue growing with my art and to see just how far I can push photography and what I do. Initially, I wanted to do something simple and straightforward. For some reason, it still ended up being simple and straightforward to me and for me. But then to others, it just might not be. So I guess it's taught me to accept my simple and my straightforward. For my journey, I've noticed that the support for photography has been lacking a lot. Of course, I'm hearing the tax thing that's been happening, which is amazing. I would like photography to be taught at a lower level, like in schools. The way you have your art, your painters starting from that level, it would be nice having photography recognized at that level too. so that when people grow up, they actually have it as an option and get to realize how much of an art it is. And support-wise, having more places that, or infrastructure that will accept photography as an art form and as a huge medium that has been used over the years to move governments, to move people, not only in the art industry but in life itself. People forget that photography is that powerful. So I would like it to be put out there and for people to recognize it as an amazing tool to use to really express yourself and to move people. So yeah.